What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to be having a one-on-one conversation with Mr. Billings from Titan One. Titan One was a small, independent, third-party distributor from about 2017, 2018, maybe even a little bit into 2016, and he has a pretty interesting story. I've already done one of these with 215s hung to go, and now I've done one with him. I plan on doing one with East Coast Toys. I'd be willing to do one with GCI. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions regarding that one specifically, myself included. East Coast Toys has agreed to do one with me. We just can't get the scheduling to work out. TF1, if you're listening, I'm down to do one with you. I think it would be interesting to document a lot of these small independent distributors. He's got a pretty interesting story. It's going to be edited down. It was a 2-hour conversation. It's going to be edited down for the sake of viewing. The uncut version will be on Patreon on Monday, I believe. Like all great and interesting stories, there is some drama associated with this story. We made a decision to omit any names. It wasn't about the names, it was about the circumstances. That was a decision that we made. Moving on from that, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. Dummies came out, and for the first time, I got a little bit of pushback on too many collection critiques. So we have 2 more coming. They were already in the can. And then we will be taking a month off, and we'll reassess. See if we're going to continue it in a month, or we're going to take a longer break. A lot of people hit me up with their entries. We're still in November, just as a point of reference. Be patient. I don't think we have much to talk about regarding the Minnesota stuff, so we'll leave that alone. Sit Down Saturday. I mentioned that Legends had become the bread and butter of my channel, and someone said because you're not growing your channel, you're not evolving it, why don't you try reaching out to companies and have them send you stuff for free? You've got me confused. I'm not hitting up anybody and asking them to send me something for free or early or any of that. Like, that's not my bag. If it falls in my lap, it falls into my lap. My father once told me, keep your shoes dirty and your knees clean, and you could eat your dinner off of mine. I think if you look closer, you'll find that I have probably the most diverse channel within this pocket that we're talking. I'm just never going to be the guy with the toy first. That's not going to be what this channel is. It happens every once in a while, but it's certainly the exception to the rule. And with that, I think we can get started. It's a pretty interesting story. I had to use a lot of stock footage because it's a recording, so I wanted to make it somewhat visually interesting for you. If you hate it, then I'm sorry. Just know that it was due to no lack of effort on my part to make it somewhat visually interesting. Let's get started.
What's up, everybody? Today we have something a little special and a little different. We are joined by Matt Billings of Titan One fame. For those that don't know, Titan One was pretty much a third-party distributor. So Matt was gracious enough to accommodate my schedule and come on and sort of tell his story. And Matt, I'd like to welcome you, first of all, and thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So at what point do you decide to go from consumer to distributor? And, well, obviously you're still consuming, but, striking a balance at least.
So I did whatever I could in community college. I wasn't poised in my life. I wasn't dealt the correct hand to be able to go down a full college route. I think I got my AA at community college, which is about as worthless as a high school diploma at this point.
Right.
I ended up doing life a little weird or kind of out of order. I got married to my wife. After years of applying, in spring of 2015, she got accepted into pharmacy school.
Uh-huh.
At this point, we'd already owned our own house, and we had our first child just a few short months before she got accepted. So things kind of turned upside down for us. And we were both working full-time as pharmacy technicians, and we were living on a dual income. Of course, I was buying toys, but a little more responsibly because now we had a kid, and I was buying diapers and stuff and whatnot.
Right.
But she had to stop working full-time come that fall. Within the first couple months, we were like, look, we were living very comfortably on our dual income, but with you going to school and the amount of gasoline you're now pumping out to get to school, this isn't sustainable for long on just my income. I balanced the books over and over and over again, and I was like, the well's going to run dry. And so we made the tough decision to sell our house and move in with her mom for the next 3.5, 4 years until she finished school and was able to get a job. But basically what happened was my wife was gone for, 12 to 15 hours a day. When she'd get home, she had to study for another 2 to 4 hours a night. I'd get the baby up, take him to the sitter, go to work, come home, hang out with the baby, put him to bed. My wife did not have time for me. She had to study. So I basically had, 4, 5 hours a night to either play video games, eat and get fat,
right,
and just, I was bored.
Right.
It's basically what it came down to. So during this kind of transition time, I found a Facebook group called the Cybertron Cafe, but I noticed a guy on there constantly posting, and he had his figures for considerably cheaper than what like BBTS was selling for. Mm-hmm. And this guy's name was Manolo.
You know, like I think about that dude from time to time. I haven't heard from him in years.
Yeah, I do too. So this was around the time that X-Transbot's Apollyon was coming out. Mm-hmm. And I had already paid off and pre-ordered mine from BBTS, but a local buddy of mine, I was telling him about it, and he's like, dude, I want one of those. And then I saw the post from Manolo about it, and I was like, I'm going to get you one, and you're going to get it for like way cheaper than I got mine. So I saw his post, messaged him, and was like, cool, I'm going to take one of them Apollons. And he sent it to me. When I got it, because it came to my house, but it was for my buddy. When I opened it, everything was open. Like there was no stock box for the Apollyon. It was opened. Everything was bubble wrapped and it was nicely wrapped and stuff. But I messaged him back and I was just kind of confused. I'm like, hey man, I thought you said these were new. He's like, oh yeah, I just do that to, cut costs for shipping. Every buck I save is a buck cheaper for, you guys. I was like, okay, that's interesting. That was that. I just started buying from Manolo somewhat regularly because of that. And we just kind of started talking over Facebook Messenger. And Manolo was actually a pretty open book if prompted or asked. Mm-hmm. He wasn't one to start the conversation very often, but if you asked him something, he would go off on huge tangents and tell you about stuff. Uh-huh. Just over talking to him for the next couple months, like it ultimately gave me the idea to do the same. Like if it weren't for Manolo, Titan 1 wouldn't have ever happened. Rather than being like a or dismissive or thinking of me as a potential threat on, his turf, he was super helpful. Like the nicest guy, would answer questions for me, taught me all about the ins and out of shipping items and the different tricks from PayPal, from eBay, from FedEx, all the weird like underground that you can do to save a few more dollars for a shipping label. Right. Like he knew, and he taught me everything. He taught me how to get like free shipping boxes, cheap or free packing materials, how to work the shipping prices into what you're going to offer to sell the figure for. And he was very community focused and about the collector community in the Cybertron Cafe, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah. Basically, that's how I got into it. I just talked to him, and I was like, man, this is really cool. I would love to do this.
Did he give you the contacts?
Yeah, he gave me a few, and then once the few turned into more, and it kind of just spiderwebbed from there.
Were they contacting you ever, or did you have to just kind of keep searching for different contact information in order to kind of keep broadening your scope? Okay, the latter.
Yeah. The latter. Fans Toys was the only one that initially rejected me, but also opened the door to so much more for me. They were like, look, you're just starting out. We don't want to sell you just like a couple, 2 or 3 or, whatever figures here. Like they gave me a contact for a general toy wholesaler in China. Mm-hmm. And they were like, talk to these guys. They get our products and they get everybody else's. If you can't get any direct contacts or whatever through these companies, then these guys will help you out. And so that's what I did. And that's for a while. That's how I got like Fans Toys and I think Make Toys.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this like element of it. Is that mainly how you got product?
Yeah. Okay. Well, at first, yeah. I sent out emails to every company that I knew of that I knew had a good product that I'd had before and that people were collecting actively in the Cybertron Cafe. I sent out emails to. And I would say maybe 3/4 of them replied at all. And then maybe only half were interested in my small potatoes kind of company. And everything else, if I wanted something, I would use this third-party wholesaler, so to speak.
So how was communication?
It was sketchy. Yeah, it was always through emails or messengers, and emails sucked because when I'm trying to do orders and stuff or whatever, communicate actual business stuff, like they might not respond to an email for 2 days, But you also have to take into account that if the best time for you to communicate with them is the time that you're going to bed, because they're halfway across the planet or whatever, so it's their morning for them. So that was always a struggle.
You're also building or making an attempt, right, to build your brand in some regard.
Basically, like I mentioned earlier, we had some equity in the house, and I'm just sitting in this house, idle hands, like dying every night. And I was like, I needed something to do.
Right.
So I talked with her. She gave me the thumbs up. I took $3,000 from our savings from the sale of the house, and I opened up a new bank account, not just a new account at our current bank. I went to a different bank and opened up an account and put this $3,000 into it and hooked it up to PayPal and wire transfer. And this is it. $3,000. I'm going to gamble with this. If I lose it all, I lose it all. And that was just a stupid, fun thing for me to do. But if I can flip this and turn it into something, great. But I was never going to touch any more money from our personal account.
Right.
Then I turned to my only other friend who I was close friends with, the collector that I got the Apollyon for. He owns a tattoo business, and he's owned several tattoo companies or businesses, and he's, turned them over and sold them and then started new again. And so I, was kind of asking him about business licensing, and we, of course, needed to come up with a name for my shop. And he was like, tell me, because he's taken workshops on starting businesses and names, and he said numbers are always good because people can always remember a number. And I named my son after the Titan Atlas. So then we settled on Titan 1. And then he had a guy who was really good with graphics and Photoshop and stuff that worked at his tattoo shop. And he just asked him to whip me up something really quick. And then in 20 minutes, my Titan 1 toys was a thing. And I had a logo. And then I took that file to Vistaprint and had cards made. And next thing you know, I was ready to start ordering toys.
What do you order first?
I'm so glad you asked. May 12th, 2016. Titan 1 Toys received its first order, and it was a jumble of shit. I got the Weijiang MPP-10, which is their oversized Optimus Prime.
Yep.
X-Transbots Boost, which was their Wind Charger.
Yep.
Ocular Max Jaguar, which was their Ravage. This was the month that Fans Toys Stomp was released, so I got some of him.
Okay.
Fans Toys Forager. And lastly, Bobby, the last toy in my first order was Omnigonic Spinout.
Lucky dog. You made out pretty well on the gambles across the board.
I did.
But most of those pieces are pretty strong, and then there's like an average one here or there, and then there's that one.
While this order was in transit from China to, my house, I learned that the reviews had started getting out, and this figure was literally dead on arrival.
Right.
Big Bad Toy Store and all the other major retailers were already tanking his price down before mine even showed up to my door. And they're already dropping the price to a hair above wholesale. And I was like, this isn't good. This is not a good sign for my first order.
Right.
Lucky for me, though, like you said, there was a lot of strong pieces in there. But also, might I point out, my first order was small potatoes. And I'm talking 4 to 8 pieces of each figure.
Right.
So I was a little nervous at first. I did my thing just like Manolo would do. I would just make up a post and then put it on the Cybertron Cafe and just kind of see who would give me a chance. And it was sketchy at first. People were very hesitant. I remember one of the first stomps I sold, the guy, when he got it, posted did a post and said, thanks, got my first order from Titan 1, and he had a picture of Stomp with my business card on the box and then candy thrown about, and he was like, this is awesome. And that feeling made everything. I was grinning ear to ear when I saw this guy post up and tag me and say thanks, and he had the business card with the candy and the toy, and he said he was so happy. I was just like, this is it. This is what it's all about right here.
A little dopamine drip.
Yeah, big time.
You included candy in all of it, and we've had this conversation privately before. But tell people that story because it's pretty touching in a way.
So all growing up, I had this best friend since kindergarten. I met him. I remember the day I met him. His dad is definitely a character. He owned and ran a Mac Tools truck. And on his truck, you would always find a freshly stocked bucket of assorted candies and beef jerky sticks. But this little thing that he did was just a small gesture, just a little kind of trick to when he would show up to shops to get the mechanics to come out and shoot the with him. Because if he could start a conversation, get him eating some candy and talking with him, he could make a sale. That's where the idea for this came from for me. I knew day one that I wanted to do just that. I wanted to throw candy in every order because a connection. It just, people were like, oh, this is cool. This guy puts in candy in his order. That's kind of unusual and completely unexpected. Shortly after, I quickly became known as the Candy Man.
Whether you realized it or not, it was a pretty strong branding thing. My kids to this day, when I open up a box, every now and then they'll be like, it's not from the guy that sends candy, is it? You know, because I'm not a big candy eater, so every time they came, I just gave it, they have like a little snack basket that's in the pantry so I would, you know what I mean? I would just dump it in there. To this day, they still ask.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
like
awesome.
they remember it clearly. I mean, I know that you had mentioned that you're dealing with a wholesale distributor largely, but of the ones that you were dealing with directly, what was the easiest to deal with, and I won't say worst, but we'll say perhaps most challenging?
The best one and my personal favorite was Bad Cube. He was a cool dude, man. If I asked or pushed a conversation kind of on him, he would chat me up and kind of give me all the weird little ins and outs and things, just talking, like telling me different things that his company was thinking about or working on or had in the pipeline, or, you know, working out better deals with him on things. He would tell me he'd be the only one that was like straightforward with me, like, your quantity is this, but if you bump it up to this, I can get you a better price, because if you order more, you get, you know, bigger cut.
Right.
A bigger price cut. None of the other people like offered up that information to me. So the Bad Cube dude was super cool, and I enjoyed my relationship with him. The most difficult, that kind of varied from time to time. Toy World was bad. That guy to this day owes me money. You know, he did me dirty. Even from the beginning, Toy World was super hard to get any kind of aftercare, and getting your order fulfilled was kind of a nightmare.
How did you handle the money? Like, did you pay up front for everything?
Yeah. So basically, after that first big order, I turned that $3,000 investment into, I basically more or less doubled the money. I had Excel spreadsheets. I knew every dollar that was going out, every dollar that was coming in. And basically, I ran this entire business. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I did everything on my iPhone. I made the contacts, did the emails, did the Facebook stuff, printed labels from my phone. I literally ran this whole thing for 3 years on my phone. I don't think I touched a computer a couple times. So basically what happened was, after the first order came in, I sold everything except Omnigonics. What I would do is I would put all that money, every bit of it, back into the account and then roll it over. So the next time I was able to order, 10 pieces and 12 pieces.
Right.
And that's all I kept doing. I wasn't paying anybody. I didn't have employees. I wasn't necessarily paying myself. I was just doing this, and then I would keep a toy every now and again. And once again, Manolo showed me all these like eBay sellers who sold packing stuff for cheaper than anywhere else in the world. You could get a whole giant wrap, a roll of bubble wrap for like $4, like stuff like that. So basically that's all I did. I just snowballed the whole business. Every dollar I put right back to that account, and then I was able to order more and order more and order more. I got caught up in tight situations when too many new figures were coming out from too many different companies at once. And that happened a couple times. I ended up opening a business credit card with this bank, and I had to use that like a good handful of times when, too many figures were coming out and there was too much money going out and waiting for transit in order to get that money back. And if you didn't pay your invoices on time, you could tarnish your relationships. You could not, get the figures in time in a timely manner. In China, every penny counts. And so what you always wanted to do was to have your invoices paid on time. The big just third-party wholesaler that I used, you paid the invoice once the items arrived in their warehouse. So you didn't have to pay up front, but you told them very specifically how many units you wanted, and then there was no deviating from that. They were like, you can maybe order more sometimes, but if you tried to cut it down less, like if your reviews were coming out and you knew that wasn't going to be a hot figure and you're like, nah, I don't know if I want 3 cases of that one, they kind of made you held you to it, or they're going to basically prevent you from buying the next thing if you didn't.
Right.
These third-party figures are a flash in the pan. When they first come out, they are hot. Everybody wants one because everybody needs that character for their collection. Everybody. Once you wait 4 weeks, 6 weeks, God forbid 2 months, whatever you haven't sold is going to sit. I would eventually, at the 6-week mark is usually when I would do it, I would then release whatever stock I had left on eBay. And if it didn't sell on eBay, I would set it aside. Holiday sales, any kind of holiday. It was like Memorial Day weekend sale, and then
Right.
it would be deep discounted. And if I needed something to move, I would just put it up for wholesale cost just to get it gone, because
Right.
it's doing me no good sitting in my garage as dead stock.
Right. What was the customer service like in terms of having to deal with your consumers, your customers?
My customers were fantastic. I quickly gained a huge following. Even out of this day, after I've tried closing the page, Facebook's super weird, but I had a Titan One toy store page. It had over 5,000 people following it. So everybody who did business with me pretty much at least would check in with me if I was going to get something or if I had something before moving on to the next option. My attachment rate was pretty high. If a customer wanted to talk and if they wanted to ramble on about something, or if they had a bad day, or if, they just wanted to talk turkey about new figures coming out, even though they could go to one of the infinite number of resources out there for any of this stuff, if they wanted to talk to me, I was wide open for them.
Right.
I rarely took money up front. I didn't like doing that as a consumer. If people told me they were in, like I again had my spreadsheets, rather than like an official website database with all the stuff automated, every time somebody would order something from me, and if they were new, I added them into my spreadsheet with their contact info. So I had like, their name and address and stuff. And then just as they messaged me to order stuff, I would just do a quick check, like, still same address? Like, yep. I was able to generate orders that way and had everybody's address saved, and I had everybody's order, committed pre-orders. And of course, people are going to bail, last minute. They don't have money, or, they got it from somewhere else or whatever. And that's just part of the business. That part didn't really bother me, to be honest. Yeah. I did what I could when I could, but you can't fix everything. You can't get a perfect figure every single time. Of course, that's the dream, but this stuff's made in China, It's like, this isn't an American company, and they technically don't owe you anything. Half the companies didn't offer aftercare service at all.
Correct.
And the ones that did, you were lucky they did. And of course, they would never pay for the shipping of it. So I could get parts. I'd have to eat the shipping on it to get it to the States, which is fine. Like, I ended up calculating that later down the road too. When I would get parts from my the big wholesaler, they would just send in the parts in my next order, so I didn't have to pay additional shipping.
So at a certain point, is there anything that you want to mention, or you haven't had a chance to mention before we start talking about how things start going left?
So Bad Cube had sent out invoices for Grump, which was their gears. To this day, I don't know if it was because I paid my invoice right away, or just the timing of the way my order was processed, or whatever. Or maybe I would like to think that it was due to the friendly nature of my business relationship with the Bad Cube guy. I don't know that to be true, but that in my heart, that's what I like to think. But they shipped out orders. This was right coming up on Chinese New Year. And my stock, or my shipment of Bad Cube gears and slick, showed up on the 24th of January. And I was the only United States retailer to get this figure before Chinese New Year.
Oh, wow.
The only one, ahead of all the big names. And Bobby, I was not prepared to have this kind of attention. I got messages from people I've never dealt business with, people that were openly telling me that they want to buy from me and they're going to cancel their pre-order with whatever big name retailers right away if I had a figure for them. Had I known this was even a realm of possibility, I would have ordered up.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
But I had 80 units of Grump, and because I'm so, still am in touch with the community and the popularity, and I know this stuff, I only ordered 40 units of Slick because I knew he wasn't as popular. I didn't want to be stuck with,
right,
a ton of him. Between everybody canceling their pre-orders with everyone else, between all the messages, people telling me that they're referring to me, sharing the I think that was one of the most posts that got shared, was my post about gear showing up. It got widely known very fast that I was the only one that was going to get this. Other retailers who were active on Facebook, even big name retailers, were posting straight up admitting that they're not going to get this until after Chinese New Year, which only drove more people to me.
Right.
I sold through all 80 units of gears and most of the 40 of Slick, like within 12 hours.
Wow.
That was the hardest I'd ever worked in this entire venture. I packed up every order that night into the wee hours of the morning.
Because this was your make or break moment, really.
Yeah, it was huge. I'd run out of candy, I remember. I was like raiding my kids' like old Halloween candy at some point. I mean, I say old, it was only a couple months, but like
Right.
I think I threw some Rice Krispie treats in a few of them, like until I was literally out of everything. I think I got like 3 hours of sleep that night and woke up and went to work and I had to get like 2 shopping carts full of these little boxes with gears and go up to the counter, and the gal customer service was like, "Whoa." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Just leave them here. We're just going to give them straight to the UPS or the post office guy."
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you think that that puts you on radars where perhaps you weren't before in terms of competitors?
Yes. And I'm super glad you mentioned that because that's literally like the next like bullet point from my notes. This pissed off a couple other competitors.
And
not the small ones, not the likes of Manolo or GCI or whatever. Like,
right.
That little Gears incident put me on radar big time.
From that point to now being completely out of the game, what happens?
Yeah, a man can't just do something and be happy and be successful without somebody else getting jealous or butting in. Basically, this is where the drama started. All the harassment, the drama, which is why I think ultimately why Manolo left and got out anyways. He was treated
like by people, like community.
Oh no, not by customers, by other big name retailers that were that they did not like our small operations because we were offering the same product at a much cheaper price. We were giving way better customer service. We were better at communication. Yeah, there was one or two big retailers in particular that would throw their weight around and make empty threats, I guess. It got pretty nasty. You know, they would tell Keith from KFC, like, hey, if you don't send me this first and give me this much of a price break, I'm not going to order product from you anymore. And it worked. And there was a lot of back and forth with Keith, myself, and Manolo about certain things. And this one big retailer in particular, again, I don't know how to describe Keith. He's an odd fellow, but he shared this stuff. Like basically the other side of the conversation, he was like, yeah, this is what this guy's telling me. But like he orders more toys than you do and he's a bigger chunk of my business.
Right.
You know, what is he to do?
Right.
Because of what happened with Gears started to slip into me. Like you said, I then became on a radar and it wasn't good.
This company put pressure on other companies to edge out the smaller people and threaten them basically with not buying as much, which would hurt their pockets. Did you notice that your relationship with all of these avenues that you had, like pretty much were impacted immediately, or were there any that were like any that stood their ground, like no, we're just doing business with everybody the way we've always done business with everybody? Some
of them right away, and then others a little bit over time. Leo from Toy World, despite how him and I ended things, he still had a good relationship, even though he was still doing the aftermath of the Zeta thing, so he didn't really have anything to offer us anyways.
Right.
But he was still game. Keith was, I mean, me and GCI, like, we got our stuff after this other retailer. Like, he'd still sell it to us, but we were not the first anymore. Same thing with Bad Cube. It was a definite, like, they would delay before shipping our order. Like, it would be at least a solid week before we would get things. And without dragging my customer base into the drama, I was just like, look, guys, I appreciate your patience. And your loyalty does not go unnoticed. Like, I understand I'm not the first one to get it because, as you know, collectors are super impatient. People will like loyalty goes a long way, and that goes a long way with me too. But some people just want it from whoever the fastest. They want to be the first one over here to get it, and people will bail. And the people that said, hey, yeah, I want one of these, and then you allot that in your pre-orders, and then they bail because this other retailer got it first. That's fine. Like, that, it always happened, but it got worse and more egregious because of this.
So at what point did you decide to close the doors?
Basically, a couple deciding factors. The drama was pretty high up on the list. Because it honestly took the fun out of it for me.
Yep.
I still enjoyed seeing the smiles when people would post and say great, kind things about me, but I hate disappointing people. I hated getting stuff later. I hated not getting orders at all because certain retailer bumped up their quantity, last minute, and so it snuffed out stuff that I was able to get. Just the drama, man, till the bitter end. Like, it didn't go away. Once that door was open, I just had a target on my back. I had to watch what I said. I had to say things differently with my contacts or communicate. Just the whole attitude with everybody was different. Just relationships and contacts and all my things just kind of changed after that. And they were not as friendly or didn't treat me as well. I wouldn't get parts as easily as I could. Again, I was a collector and a community man first. That's where my roots were. And so
you were edged out, is basically what happened.
Basically, yeah.
And in a year, there was you, GCI, 215, Manolo, which was just Manolo. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like 7 companies, you know what I mean, theoretically. And now they're all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
Yep. I mean, 2017 was the golden year for all of this. Everybody had a slice of the pie, and everybody was happy. And then after that, 2018 changed things.
It's crazy, man. It breaks my heart to hear the sad part of it, but it is still, you know, nice to hear that there are some some endearing moments that linger from your experience in it. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close out?
So 2017 was my busiest year. I don't know how to put this into a better perspective, but I took that $3,000 initial investment and I did hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales in 2017.
Wow.
Just myself, little old me. I was working in a spare bedroom / and a garage in the evenings after work.
With lower prices than the big competitors.
Every time. And each order was packed with care. No, so along with the drama and taking the fun out of it, and with Manolo gone, and I wished the best of luck to East Coast Toys when they showed up. It was January of 2019 is when I officially called it quits, because my wife and I were expecting our second kid. Because I was unsure of the landscape of the business and the drama, and adding a second kid, another baby, no less.
Right.
I don't want to sacrifice my quality of customer service. Just everything else at that point in my life, I was like, this is a good time to call it quits.
Has it soured at all your feeling about all of it?
You know, it did at first. When I finally quit, I kind of took a step back and I was like, I had a good time. I enjoyed my experience doing this overall.
So yeah, it's been an interesting listen, man, and hearing you talk, and I'm glad at least that there are some still like really, you know, treasured moments in all of it. So I commend you for it. I've always thought you were a stand-up dude. I've always appreciated the candy. I've always like I think that you've, whatever third party is, you know, in 5 years, you know, whatever the case may be, when the smoke has all cleared, I think that you have a stake in the history of it.
I'd like to think so.
So I wanted you to know that from my point of view.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on and being open about
no problem.
your experience, man. Yeah, I think it's beneficial.
So that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, the uncut version, it was on Patreon. I hope that the other independent distributors during that time, even the people that were responsible for a lot of the group buy stuff, get in touch with me and maybe we can have a conversation regarding it. Manolo, if you're out there, I'd love to touch base with you. I hope that you are alive and well and in good health and good spirits. Make sure you guys are staying cool. It's going to be hot for a while. And with that, I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.